So, let's talk about something that happens all the time. Kicking off a big IT project with tons of enthusiasm, but no real structured plan. It seems like a fast way to get started, right? But it's actually a recipe for disaster, which brings up a really important question.
I mean, really think about it. Is your next big project a well-thought-out investment, or is it more like a high-stakes gamble? Because when you ditch a solid methodology, you're essentially just rolling the dice with your money, your deadlines, and frankly, your team's sanity. Let's take a look at what that gamble actually costs you.
Okay, so the first cracks in the foundation, they almost always show up in two key areas, the budget and the schedule. This is where the lack of structure really starts to hurt, and believe me, it happens a lot faster than you'd think.
First up, and this is the big one, money. The costs just start to spiral out of control. In fact, major studies have shown that large IT projects without a clear methodology run, on average, a staggering 45% over budget. That's not just a rounding error. That's nearly half the original budget just gone.
So how does a budget just explode like that? Well, it's usually this perfect storm of issues. Think about a company building a new HR system. They start with a ballpark guess for the cost. Then, as they go, different departments keep adding new must-have features. That's what we call scope creep. And with no clear plan, people and resources are just thrown at problems inefficiently. Before you know it, the budget is completely blown.
And you know what comes hot on the heels of cost overruns? You guessed it, delays. Massive delays. Those same studies show that these projects can slip by an average of 6 months or even more. The two are totally linked. When you're scrambling to find more money and deal with constant changes, the timeline is always the next thing to break.
So why do things fall so far behind? Well, let's imagine a software project. With no detailed plan, the team is confused from day one. Nobody wants to make a big decision because they're not sure what's supposed to happen next. And then, when something unexpected goes wrong, and it always does, there's no process to handle it. The whole project just grinds to a halt.
Now, let's fast forward. Imagine the project somehow, against all odds, gets across the finish line. You'd think the pain is over, right? Wrong. Now you have to deal with the quality, or lack thereof, of what was actually delivered.
And this slide just hits the nail on the head. It's the classic gap between expectation and reality. Let's take an example, say a new supply chain system. The users needed a tool that would make their lives easier, but because nobody took the time to properly map out their needs, the system they got is missing key features. Or the features it does have are clunky and confusing. The end result isn't efficiency. It's just pure frustration. So what's the bottom line here? When the product fails to deliver, you get a whole lot of unhappy people. The clients are unhappy. The end users who have to struggle with this broken system every day are really unhappy. Even your own team is demoralized. This isn't just about one bad project. This kind of failure can seriously tarnish your company's reputation and cost you real money.
But the damage doesn't actually stop there. A failed project creates a shockwave that ripples through the entire organization. It hits the morale of the very people who worked on it and can even open up the whole company to some serious new threats. This quote really captures the human cost, doesn't it? When there's no clear method for how to work, communication just falls apart. People aren't on the same page. This leads to constant misunderstandings, which can easily turn into arguments and conflicts. Not only does that hurt the project, it creates a really toxic environment for everyone involved.
And here's a risk that's often overlooked until it's too late, and it can be an absolute catastrophe: legal and compliance risk. Think about it. So many IT systems handle sensitive customer data or have to follow strict industry rules. If you don't have a methodology to ensure you're compliant, you could be exposing your company to massive fines and incredibly costly lawsuits.
Okay, after all that doom and gloom, it might seem hopeless, but it's really not. There's a very clear way to avoid all of this chaos. The key is to start thinking of a good methodology not as a bunch of bureaucratic red tape, but as a protective shield for your project, your team, and your company.
A solid methodology really stands on these 4 pillars. First, it gives you the tools you need to actually control your costs and your timeline. Second, it creates clear channels for communication so everyone stays aligned. Third, it builds in a system for tracking progress and catching problems early, before they become disasters. And finally, it keeps everyone focused on the real goal, delivering a high-quality product that actually does what it's supposed to do. It's the blueprint for success.
So we'll leave you with this final thought. As we've seen, just hoping for the best isn't a strategy.
The real difference between a project that thrives and one that nosedives into chaos is almost always a well-defined, structured plan. So the question is, for your next project, do you have a plan or just a hope?